Evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 13. Episode 13. Let's put Agnar first. He deserves to go first. There he is. Episode 13 of Boys from the Baltic Star, a traveller tabletop roleplay game adventure. Thank you for joining us. If you don't already, please follow us on Twitter at BoysBaltic. If you watch through this video and you like it, consider following us on Twitch too. That's really appreciated. Thank you. I'm over here in the grey top with the blue background. We've sort of gone for a nice selection of colours today, I feel. Blue and black, I'm Luke. In the middle is our dastardly GM. That's Ben in the black and the red. And then over the far distance in the white and the blue is my beloved comrade Ewan. So with all that said and done, I had to sort of keep it going a little bit so Ben could open his wine. And over to him to lead us off.
Right. So last time, the boys from the Baltic Star had a tense encounter with their old nemesis, Anton Fess, also known as Mattis Fess, on Giikur. After evading him seemingly without difficulty, they set out to make their way to the hotel and their evening lake tour. Meeting the Commodore and his wife, Angelica, they learnt more of his relationship with Kat Aralesti and witnessed her flying skills before setting off for a dinner cruise of the lake. Before they even had the chance to discuss a possible arrangement with the Commodore, they found a boat pull alongside theirs on the darkening lake. And aboard, Anton Fess. And that is where we resume the story.
So, as he comes on board, no doubt, very smugly, bit of grinning and all that so going. I think is what you said. He seemed very pleased with himself, from what I could gather.
Oh yes, very pleased.
Carver will glance. Well, not Cara, actually. Soraya's down there. Zoe. She wants to sort of look across and see how Zoe is doing. Zoe being the one who he was after originally, wasn't he, back in the day?
Mm-hmm.
So, and she sort of always said bad stuff about him. So Soraya's going to look, sort of nudge her and see, how she's reacting.
Okay. That's so. Let me get this right. You want to sort of get a read on Zoe?
Yes, please.
Okay, that's fine. Rather than a read on Fess is what I'm getting at. You're more interested in Zoe's reaction.
For now, I guess because I'm doing it from Soraya's point of view, that's sort of the end that Soraya's at. Whereas if Fess is coming on board and go, the Commodore, that's Kara's and Agnar's end of the boat, isn't it? So
yeah, it is. So okay, on that basis, I would like you to try a streetwise check with Boone, and you can use, in this case, because you know her well, your choice of intellect or education.
Okay, so for Soraya, streetwise is +1, intellect is +1, so +2 with Boone. Okay. Oh, cool. Okay, my two warm ones rolled a 6 + 2 is an 8. The other one was a 1. That was a cold dice. It's cast aside. So 8.
I'm expecting the boon.
I need to keep that one in my pocket now, just to keep it. Curses.
Not much of a boon, it turns out.
No,
Okay.
it really wasn't.
So, The read you get is not much. She seems to be a slightly hardened, blank expression. She's not giving a lot away.
Okay.
We're at the point of the evening where we're just sort of mingling, aren't we? The equivalent of mingling with people that you already know quite well.
Yes, indeed.
Can Stefan just grab 2 drinks and he'll just casually wander over to Zoe and pass her a drink?
Yes, absolutely.
And just start some casual conversation, you know.
Yes, she takes the drink but doesn't sip it. And she seems distracted. She's chatting, but she's not looking at Stefan.
Okay, Stefan will take a page out of her book as well, and he'll go back onto his not partying as he was intending to do once they'd reached this point, and he'll be a bit more sensible with his alcoholic beverages given recent events. But he'll stand there and he'll chat with her and just be company, I suppose. Some form of moral support if needed.
For just a moment, the most sort of animated part of the party is where Bess approaches the Commodore as he steps onto the boat, and the Commodore greets him warmly. Mattis, lovely to see you. What on earth brings you here? And the response is, well, I was just flying from point to point, not really paying any attention, and then the sheer radiance of Angelica caught my eye on the lake, and I thought I had to come down and say hello.
Kara wants to try and catch Kat's eye, seeing as because she's shown the photo to Kat of Fess a while back, and I want to see if Kat has sort of put 2 and 2 together, if that makes sense. If she's recognised him, if she's paying any attention, if she looked at the photo much at all, if that makes sense, just from, again, judging her, because they're sitting far away enough, Kara doesn't just want to go, you see, that's that bloke I was telling you about, you know, so... So again,
all right.
A bit of subterfuge and eye looks and things like that.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, can you roll for me a deception check, please, with intellect?
Oh, it's a... Oh, sorry, that's the wrong side. That would have been... Oh, that's the same score. But it's 6 plus intellect 2, so hit 8 again, but only 8.
Okay. You approach Kat, and she says, I found that guy you were looking for.
Kara says, so out of the corner of her mouth, while sort of sipping a drink and trying to look cordial. So thanks for that. You've done a good job. Thank you. and then Kara will just say, just watch yourself. Just, be careful. And then sort of smiles and sort of tries to make small talk with her at that point.
Okay. The Commodore and Fess seem to be getting on like a house on fire. Angelica is standing there laughing with them. They are clearly, old friends and having a thoroughly nice time together, which must be slightly irritating, but nonetheless appears to be true. And they are, loosely speaking, seemingly quite relaxed in each other's company. They're not in any way looking tense or upset, and after a few moments, the Commodore starts beckoning the group over to join them.
Agnar. Anton can do whatever he wants. I'm not in control of him.
Anton can get in the lake.
Agnar will walk over. First out of my 2, I assume. He'll make his way over, and he'll introduce himself and say, Agnar Arnson, and you're Mattis, was it? Is that what the Commodore said?
Mattis Fess. but I seem to recall we might have met before. Oh, I have a terrible memory for such things. Forgive me.
No, myself as well. I mean, I do have quite the memorable face, and sort of chuckles and laughs it off in a social way. Has he got a drink? Is he?
He's holding a drink,
Okay.
but he doesn't appear to be drinking it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me, how do you know the Commodore here?
Oh, well, that's a long story. Perhaps, Commodore, you'd like to tell them. And he sort of chuckles to himself and he says, well, yes. You see, I'm a businessman. And I work in the fish trade, really. And we had a very interesting discussion. You see, as you don't know the man, I should let you know. Mattis here is a galaxy-renowned expert in fish, the science of fish, ichthyology, they call it. He's a tremendous intellect, published in dozens of journals. He's enormously well known in his field. And he came to see me to discuss an interesting proposition. Now, perhaps, Mattis, actually, you're the expert. You'd be able to explain it better than I can. And Fess smiles and says, but of course, as you no doubt know, the atmosphere down at the level of the ocean on Giikur is much higher density. And that leads to the ocean being infused with unusually high levels of oxygen, nitrogen, and even carbon dioxide. Something that fish need to live, of course. And if you're familiar with the basic operation of a gill, that depends on the amount of oxygen dissolved in the water. So what we discovered, we had assumed that the fish on Giikur would have adapted to their high oxygen environment and would be operating in exactly the same way as fish everywhere else in the galaxy. But we were wrong. We were completely wrong. It turns out that on Giikur, the fish absorb the extra oxygen at an absolutely phenomenal rate. The turnover in body mass is extraordinary. They grow to maturity much quicker. On Giikur, a fish that elsewhere might reach maturity in 4, 5, 6 years, here can do it in 2 or 3. It is astonishing. So naturally, being the inquiring mind I am, I started thinking about the possibility of taking fish species from Giikur to other worlds to see how they would do. And they do fine, but they don't grow all that quickly. However, when we tried the other way round, releasing fish into little tanks on the planet's surface at Giikur, they didn't do well at all. That is potentially a problem. So I proposed this experiment to my very good friend, the Commodore. He would provide 1 or 2 of his fishing craft and some experts to find me the best possible inshore fishing grounds, the ones that we could most easily access and find good examples of fish. And we would conduct a whole series of experiments on fish as they came up out of the water. And it's early days yet, but we think we are going to find a way to export the growth rates of Giikur fish to elsewhere in the galaxy. We could feed billions of people much faster that way and, well, without being silly about it, also make a little money.
It sounds quite the profitable enterprise.
Well, we hope it will be.
Stumbled across. How long have you known the Commodore? This sounds like a long-term project.
Oh, I think we probably first met about 3 or 4 years ago.
So well acquainted then.
Oh, indeed. Yes. Yes, we know each other very well indeed. And your team, you're interested in science? Is that one of your things?
We have a few scientists on our team with varying skill sets, but we tend to cover quite a broad spectrum of skills. I myself am a biologist in part, a xenologist in other parts, and a medic somewhere in between.
A biologist, you say? Interesting.
Nothing to the sort of level that you're talking about, but I've done my studies.
And what brings you to meet with the Commodore this evening?
Well, he I believe that one of our team bumped into a friend of the Commodore's, and as we had space on our evening cruise of the lake, we decided to invite them along. It seemed silly, the 4-5 of us floating around on a vessel quite so large.
Okay. Fair enough. He says, of course, I'm interrupting a business meeting. Commodore, allow me to entertain Angelica while you talk shop. And he sort of holds out his elbow for her to put her arm through, and they walk off to the opposite corner of the boat, which, unsurprisingly, actually brings them very close to Zoe.
Can Agnar just sort of beckon Kara over if she's not already over? If she is, then he can leave them to talk business, or at least take a step back.
Kara will sort of smile at Kat, sort of finish off their little very sort of small talk, as she was clearly, when you're kind of talking to someone but you're clearly paying a lot of attention to something else that's going on. So she was kind of holding a small conversation with Kat, and then she sort of smiles and sort of wanders over towards the Commodore and sort of beckons towards the chair again. Says, "Shall we talk shop?"
Oh, yes. Now that Angelica is entertained, and I'm sure Kat can find her own amusements. Yes, let's do exactly that. So, what did you want to discuss?
Well, we are in the business of trading between planets. We have a way to move goods around, and from talking with some people on the planet when we landed, some names and company names were put forward, and through Kat, your name was put forward as the preeminent name to talk to with regards to the trading, the import, the export of fish. She was bigging you up. She was bigging you up quite a lot. She certainly had a lot of good things to say about you.
Oh, how nice to hear. So, what are you after from me? You are interested in trading in fish?
We are. You've spoken before about your willingness to trade fish off the planet of your large catch. You've spoken about that before. You spoke that in the past, the Zodani, you exported a lot to the Zodani, who were the first big buyers, and we'd like to sort of take your fish and sort of. We tend to go for a few planets on our journeys, and we'd be looking to move them onto a planet. It might be a planet that knows the fish already. It might be another that might actually open up future business possibilities for you.
Well, that sounds lovely. I don't, for the most part, my company doesn't, for the most part, handle the major trade route. We bring the fish up, prepare it, package it, and then hand it over to traders on Giikur for distribution across nearby systems. But there is one area, I suppose, where I could have a slightly more bespoke arrangement, which is there are rare fish species we don't really fish for by commercial means usually. But our big traders aren't interested in taking a risk on something unusual. But experience tells me some of these fish are of great interest to the discerning buyer. So perhaps you'd be interested in selecting a few unusual species. We can direct one of our more advanced fishing vessels to help you, provided we were confident that you would be willing to take the catch off their hands at the end of the process.
I think so. We've got space in cargo. Do you generally like to ship fish live or sort of frozen packed, sort of stasis packed? How do you like to go about things?
Fish survive the meat of fish survives the freezing process extremely well. They're going to be slightly less efficient in some areas because the value of these unusual species is usually their look as much as their taste. So we'd probably pack the entire fish and freeze it rather than filleting it first and just packing the best of the meat, you see. But the rewards for offering people something genuinely unusual and a luxury item, I suspect, could be very worth it to you.
That sounds very interesting. I like the idea of being able to bring something slightly different and exotic to people. It sort of marks it out, and I'm sure we could ensure that your company's name is loud and proud, of course, on the packaging, and people know that if they need more, if they love it and they need more, there's ways to get more.
Yes, can you roll a persuade check for me with advantage? It's been a very nice evening.
Yeah, this dice is a little bit warmer. Okay. Yeah.
And your choice of intellect or social, please.
No, we'll go intellect. So it's a +4.
Okay.
Should be okay. Well, just about. Well, it should be. It's a 7. Another 1 again. It's that cold dice. It's the same dice as well. That one's going away for the evening. 7 + 4 is 11.
Okay. He says, obviously, if you were to be willing to perhaps help publicize an alternative venture I have in mind at the same time, there could be a discount in the wind.
Cara takes a sip on a glass of wine, sort of leans conspiratorially. I'm glad I've said this at this time of night. Conspiratorially inward a little bit and says, "I'm listening."
Giikur is heavily reliant on tourism for some of its income, and while the city is, I think, lovely and has much to offer, people don't cross star system to star system to take in a show. The big draw here is Earth Park. I'd like to offer a second draw. I'd like to offer deep sea fishing trips.
Interesting. That'd certainly be another reason to put Giikur on the map. Especially if your friend Mattis talked about the sort of how quickly these fish grow out there. It would be quite a fascinating journey, no doubt, for the connoisseur.
I have tried to convince him, but I think he's concerned that, being that he's a scientist, an environmentalist, he's more worried that a large number of recreational anglers might focus down on unusual or rare species, might drive them out of traditional breeding grounds. I have tried to interest him in this side of the business, but he seems focused mainly on the larger commercial catches as a business venture. He would like, I suspect, to leave the rare, unusual species and the unusual places more for his private scientific amusement. And I don't mind. We're old friends, but I'm also here to make money.
Cara Halfling's back, takes another sip, delves into her big mental book of philosophy, and says, I can see his point, and there are many reasons for him to take that approach, but it feels that by offering this more niche approach, it puts Giikur's name becomes even more well known, and it makes for even more potential support and funding, and people being interested in what he wants to do on the planet as well. Sometimes you need to focus on something to increase the value of something else.
Well, absolutely. And I have already had quiet discussions with the people who run Earth Park. They might be interested in offering marine safaris to go with their land-based ones.
Cara looks across at Agnar to see if he's excited about some extra animals to catch on his little machine. Extra animals, Agnar.
Funnily enough, he's looking at his phone and just sort of waves it over. He looks quite excitedly.
Yes, Earth Park, as far as I'm aware, only have the one fish species at the moment, and they haven't been publicising it as an attraction because it's hard to make it visually compelling. But if you can find a quiet cove on the side of an island, fence it off, and stock it heavily with the most vibrantly colourful, interesting fish, I suspect there would be people who would take that trip.
Cara sort of smiles and says, it does sound rather beautiful. And she leans forward again and says, okay. I feel I speak for the crew when I say we would be happy to help publicise this. We'd also, as part of the deal, and she sort of goes into a file on her device, and she starts flicking through some of the art and advertising things she's done in the past. Like her portfolio that she carry around with her. And so I'm an artist myself, and I've been involved in the past in visual media and advertising and so on. If you were interested, I could, while we're still on the planet, I could knock up some potential ideas to make it look like a beautiful resort. We could include that in the deal if you were interested.
Well, that sounds a very kind offer. I'll tell you what. If this sort of thing would be of interest to you, I can have you flown down to one of my ships. We've got one of our more scientifically based ones, one of the less factory-oriented vessels, coming back into port tomorrow evening, and after overnight layup. It'll be heading out into the ocean. I think I can probably spare its trip for a day, just to give you a feel of what's out there and maybe catch you some exotic species. And if you could take pictures of them, draw pictures of them, come up with a way of representing the whole experience, well, I don't think I would feel the need to charge you for that at all. And I would be perfectly prepared to offer any of the catch you wanted at a very, very modest price.
Cara smiles. She thinks, okay, so she's working it through the mind. She's like, okay, so tonight we've got tonight. Nice. In her mind, she's thinking, okay, tomorrow there's that tour. If that's still happening, in the back of her mind, she also Mattis is here. Who knows? Okay, so the morning after next sounds good to me. We would be delighted to go down, have a look, catch some exotic fish. I'll jot up some artwork, some designs for you, and then we can look it all through and we can talk final prices.
Excellent stuff. That's very good. I will have Kat collect you at your hotel and take you to the vessel.
Ah, Cara turns around, sort of smiles at Kat, says, sounds even better, thank you.
Wonderful. Well, we will not worry about the numbers this evening. It's a social evening, but I think we've reached an understanding that we can help each other out without any complexities over payment. We'll offer you a very good deal on any fish that your trip catches, and no money need change hands over the actual expedition. After all, it's a speculative idea. It may or may not come to something. He sort of thinks for a second, and then he beckons Fess over. Mattis, old friend. These people are interested in some exotic species. That cove you were interested in because of the fish you could find there. That might be a good place to start. And Mattis smiles and says, "Oh, I don't think so. Those are interesting scientifically, but they're not the largest or the most vibrant. I think you'd have to look elsewhere for the more interesting species."
Cara sort of smiles at Fess and says, Mr. Fess, we're going over to have a look. It'll be lovely. If nothing comes of it, then it's only our time wasted. I think the Commodore makes a good point, and it would be lovely to see this, and we might see some of your experiments firsthand.
Okay. Fess says, "I really think you might be barking up the wrong tree." And as he says it, he has made a truly terrible roll. It may be that he's convincing his old friend, but he seems very keen to keep you away from that particular cove.
Yeah. Said, we'll be in and out. We won't be there for... Oh, no, it was that bad, was it?
Yep.
We'll be in and out. There's nothing to worry about. You know, I'm sure we'll see quickly enough if it's a terrible mistake, but it'll be a good day out is never a wasted day out. If we come back with nothing, then so be it. There's plenty more fish in the sea.
You're speaking my language, says the Commodore. Bess, That's a bit better. Fess says, well, if you're heading to my favourite cove anyway, perhaps I should tag along. And the Commodore says, well, that works out brilliantly for everyone. My new friends get the expertise of a great ichthyologist to help them in their research. And my old friend, he gets to see a side of the cove that he may not have seen before, a possibility that he might be more enthusiastic about future projects of mine.
Clara smiles halfway, raises a glass and says, well, I'm sure we'll all be delighted to have such an eminent scientist with us. Isn't that right, Agnar?
Agnar, nods away and says, yes, of course. Any expert advice will be gladly welcomed.
Okay.
Can I sidetrack a little bit at some point? We can come back to it if we need to. But whilst the trading conversation was going on and this was all starting, can Agnar just have been doing the equivalent of a Google search for either Anton or Mattis Vess and some kind of publicised scientific papers about fish as he was talking about it? That kind of... to
Absolutely.
see what is out there, and I'm happy to jump back to that whenever.
Okay. Then can you roll me an electronics computer check, please?
Yeah.
With education as the underline.
Oh dear. Do you know how to turn it on, Agnar? It's that button.
Well, the good news is the education almost outweighs his electronics lack. So that is a 9.
Oh.
+2 for education, -3 because he doesn't have any electronics.
Okay. Can you roll for me 1d6, please?
That's 3.
3. Okay. All right. The search begins to run and starts kicking out, percentage of search done, but it'll take a little while, probably half an hour or so, before it returns a full set of results.
Okay, cool. Not a problem.
Right. Okay. Anything else you want to do during the conversation?
Kara will motion to the bigger of the two. It's a Varga, isn't it, that's serving, who seems to be the superior of the two waiters?
An Aslan.
An Aslan, sorry. She'll sort of lean over and sort of point to her glass and sort of do 4 more, hoping that he'll bring a tray over.
Yes, no problem at all. And the waiters are still circulating, but there's no harm in reminding them when you're ready for your next one. And indeed, the boat has sort of more or less completed its lap now. This conversation has been happening on its inner circuit of the lake, because it did one right round the outside, and then it's sort of been doing one around the sort of middle of the lake to find some nice angles on the shoreline with the setting sun. And you can just hear a slightly increasing whir as the motor starts to push it back towards the shoreline. And as it does so, Fess says, that must be my cue to leave. It has been an absolute pleasure. He shakes hands with Angelica and with the Commodore. He turns around and beams at everyone. And just before he goes, casts a little glance across at Zoe and gives her a little bow of the head before he steps over the rear of the boat onto his own craft, disconnects, and drifts off into the night.
Strangers in the night. Soraya watches him go as being not a big social person herself, her social skills, she's not been so good at the hobnobbing. So she'll be like, wow, looks like this party's finally getting started.
Well, yes, there is that. Yes, I get the feeling Fess isn't a big party animal. I don't know.
She turns to Stefan and she says, what's that place called again?
The Cascade?
The Cascade, yeah. And the way you said it is exactly the way you should have said it to Stefan. the Cascade?
Okay. As the sun finally disappears, the temperature begins to drop rapidly, as it always does at this altitude at night, and the Commodore and his wife and Cat step off as soon as the boat reaches the quay. They shake hands, say a few farewells, and then they make their way into their boat, leaving Cat behind, who says, you want me to show you the Cascade?
Oh. Yeah, Sarah smiles. I thought you'd never ask. She sort of turns to Agnar and Kara says, are you guys coming along?
Yes, I think I shall. Let's go.
Yep. Fantastic.
Just a quick question, Ben. As Fess's boat left, could we tell which direction he was heading? Whether it be to sorry, I was waiting for the map to come around, but I've forgotten it was Pito, wasn't it?
Pito, Lara are the two sides of the lake, yeah.
Yeah. Which side he was at least starting off towards?
He was heading sort of west towards Pito.
Okay, wonderful. Agnar, so yes, I definitely will. And Stefan sort of turns to Zoe and says, are you coming along?
She nods. Sure. Yeah, I could use a de-stressor. Cat waves cheerfully and says, okay, don't go anywhere. I'll be back in 20. And she clambers into her air raft with its rather lovely little boat underpinnings and lifts it off. Lifts it straight off. Not quite so extravagantly this time, but she lifts straight off from the mooring point. No sort of getting out to a safe distance first or anything. Just straight up, banks away, and heads south towards Mina.
Kara's going to pull her boots off and roll her legs, her bottom half up, and sit on the edge and to try and dangle her feet. Would she be able to dangle her feet? She would be, wouldn't we? Because we're next to the shoreline still.
Yes.
Yeah, she's just going
to... The key is, I mean, it's a couple of feet above the actual water.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, she could certainly reach it with her feet.
Yeah, just a bit of toe splashing. That's her plan. As she's pulling it off,
the water is quite cold.
Okay. As she does it, she's going to turn back to Zoe and say, look, we didn't know he was coming. I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
Okay. Zoe nods and says, I could be wrong about this, but I can't shake the feeling that one way or another, I'm going to have to deal with him. Anyway, tonight was not as relaxed as I was hoping, but it was fine.
Agnar chips in just as well. At least in 2 days' time, we know where he's going to be, so you can have free reign of the planet, I suppose, without having to worry about him, at least for the morning.
True.
Should you have anything you need to get done?
A good point. Maybe after the trip this evening, I should head back up to the ship and then stay there until, as you say, until you head down to the fishing. You know fishing's dangerous, right?
Agnar sort of laughs and said, no more dangerous than a group of Moanths in a cave, I'm sure.
So
Depends.
joining in the jokes, Sarai will say, yeah, what about all those squids? It can't be worse than the squidlings.
It kind of depends.
Cara will be like, yeah,
The
but you know,
Moanths-
those the cave spiders can't be worse than that.
All I'm saying is you were orienting yourself so you were facing all of those, correct?
Yes.
No, I mean, most of the time.
Yes. It's just I always find it hard to concentrate on what I'm facing if I'm worried about who's standing behind me. Just don't underestimate him. He's very dangerous.
I think perhaps some form of buddy system might be useful whilst fishing.
It sounds wise to me.
What do you know about him? I mean, there's a lot of questions. I don't know how comfortable you are answering them here, and Agnar sort of looks around to see how alone we are.
There doesn't actually seem to be anyone around on the quay apart from your group. It is, after all, nighttime on a cold lake.
Yeah.
Out on a narrow strip of material stretching out over the lake's surface. This is not a route through to anywhere. Can you roll a persuade check with intellect or social? Your choice.
Yes. While he's doing that, he'll say, Cara, do you think it's necessary to do another bug sweep?
Oh, good call. Cara sighs and reaches behind, pulls her feet out a little bit so she can grab what she needs to, if I must, and I guess gets the machine going, the EM probe, to see if anything is picking us up.
Okay. What can you remind me what the bonuses are on that? Is it +2 or something?
I believe the EM probe, we tend to roll it +1 for something and +1 for something else, if I remember correctly. We
I
tend
think
to roll
that might be right.
+1 for probe and +1 for computers, I think we tend to roll, rather than +2 for itself.
That does ring a bell. Yes. Okay. So yes, have a go with that indeed. And you can have boon, by the way. On
oh,
this.
thank goodness for that. Hang on. Although not that dice has done me any good. That's a new one. It's a little bit warm. I've rolled a 4 and a 1, which would make a 7. Let's see if we can improve that. No, it's another 1. That dice has gone as well. I'm getting through my dice by the minute tonight.
That's
7.
My boon dice are not serving me well.
Okay. It's not clear, but you're getting an indication. Cara is receiving an indication that implies that there is a listening device somewhere in the area.
What Cara will do is she'll catch Agnar's attention. She'll sort of put her finger to her ear and sort of do the shush sign, and then she'll say, "No, it's okay." That's as you'd asked her. So clearly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did Zoe catch that as well?
Let's see. She did not.
Oh,
She was completely
Zoe.
oblivious.
Okay. Well, Agnar rolled a 10. He's got no persuade, but he has got 2 social, so it's a 9 overall.
Okay.
Can he butt in before she answers though?
Yes.
And just say, well, I'll tell you what. Let's not worry too much about it tonight. We'll get to the cascade. We'll unwind a little bit and have a bit more of a relaxing time. And then once you're in a better place tomorrow, we can perhaps message or leave someone behind to have a conversation.
Lovely. Absolutely lovely. Let's do that. And just about the time you're saying this, you see the returning air raft come down and land, this time on the other side of the quay, the side closer, the north side, closer to the cascade. Not as flashy. She's not showing off this time. It's just a straight, very clean, come down, touch landing. No messing about. And she leans out of the front of it and says, "You coming then?"
Let's go.
Let's go.
She sets off, this time not taking off at all, just piloting it as a boat over the lake surface. And we're not talking a huge distance. It's only a matter of a few moments before you start arriving at the cascade. And as she pilots closer, she says, "Oh, we're cutting it fine. They're about to turn it off."
What? Soraya looks horrified. What time is it? What time is it at the moment after our cruise? It must be towards the...
It's sort of 9-10 p.m. that kind of schedule.
Yeah, evening for grown-ups, not for
Yeah.
the What, this early?
Yeah. You see, it's a moment. People want to be there.
To get the full effect.
Exactly. So so she drives the boat almost full speed straight at the waterfall. And it is a fairly impressive sight as you approach. And just short of the waterfall, there is another little quay, which is not all that easy to spot from a distance because it's almost at literally water level. It is technically above the water, but only by millimeters. So much so that the waves regularly are splashing over it. It's constantly wet. Just any ripple will throw a little miniature wave over the surface of it. It's essentially like a quarter circle. It cuts off that corner of the lake between the ridge line and the shore front of Lata, isolating the waterfall which plunges down behind it, turning it into almost like a little miniature lagoon. There are a number of other boats there, and she pulls up the one and moors it, and immediately charges out and says, "I hope you can swim," and plunges straight into the lagoon pool on the inside.
Soraya grabs Stefan's hand before he can even plan about what he's doing and drags him towards the edge and jumps in. She's been waiting all evening for this, bless her. You're coming. There's no way you're not coming with me. We're going.
Stefan sort of gets to the edge of the boat and then sort of turns back to look at the others and just, I guess, partially falls and partially gets just dragged in backwards.
Okay. Zoe just takes one quick step over the quay and just dives straight into the water. Yeah. As she surfaces, she starts swimming towards the waterfall with fairly powerful strokes.
Cara turns back to Agnar and says, "You're not going to shake yourself dry over all those paying patrons, are you?" And then runs and jumps in.
Agnar waits there for a minute and just thinks about the practicalities of what's about to happen and whether he is going to shake himself dry over all of those paying patrons, and then jumps in and follows.
Okay. All right. Okay. So following the enthusiastic cat into the waterfall, she doesn't pause at all. She just swims straight under the middle of it, and the rest of you follow. As she enters, she sort of dives just under the surface of the water, not deep, just enough to allow the surface to break up the sort of weight of the torrent falling. You can still most definitely feel it. It's coming down a significant distance, and there's a fair volume of water. It still hits you hard and drives you deeper as you swim under it. But the deeper you go, the more it's a sort of gentle massage on your back rather than, you know, anything painful or uncomfortable, as the energy is dissipated out. And before you know it, as you keep swimming, you are not feeling it anymore, and you can surface on the inside of the cascade. And what you immediately discover is that the cascade has a little beach. So you can literally just, you know, swim until you can stand, and then you can walk your way up out onto the beach itself. And Cat is enthusiastically beckoning. Come on, come on, come on. Hurry, 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 hurry. They're about to turn the lights on.
Soraya turns to Stefan and says, let's not rush. When I was travelling around the edge of the galaxy, I had a lot of time to watch old movies, and from all over the galaxy. And there's a few where the best way to exit the water onto the beach is to lift yourself up and almost in slow motion walk onto the beach. And so she, with the best of her ability, she tries to do it in kind of a half-jokingly erotic way, I guess. You know, flick the hair back, and up
Daniel
she gets.
Craig.
So yeah, very much Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig with long hair, in fact.
All right. Can you roll a survival check for me, please?
Oh, this is going to be worse than your somersaults.
With intellect.
Oh my god. Okay. What'd you say, survival?
Yep.
Oh, I've nailed something. 10 plus 1, 11.
Excellent.
Nice.
You suddenly begin to realise what the reason is for the beach. Obviously, it's nice that there's a slope for people to come up, but there's another reason why it's a beach, why it's sort of particulate. The reason is because they are pumping hot air very gently through the entirety of the beach's sand granules.
Ooh.
And it's drifting upwards, as hot air tends to do, and quite rapidly drying you, because though it's flowing very slowly past you, there is an enormous volume of dry, warm air coming up from underneath every part of the beach. And you're walking up through it, and it is a significantly drying effect. I suspect it will take a little bit longer for Agnar, but the rest of you, if you just walked at normal pace up the beach, you would be dry by the time you reached the top of it.
Oh, wow.
Ah.
I like it.
Agnar will spend a couple of extra minutes when we get to the beach and just, you know, rub your hair and try and get the hot air into all of the different partitions.
Yes, he's doing the sexy dog thing, right?
yeah, exactly. Just like Soraya.
He's like a shampoo commercial for all body shampoo
with much more hair.
So yes, inside what you can see, there is a well-lit sort of cave-like, quite large bar. And when I say bar, it's actually two bars, one on each side, both running down towards the beach and stretching back into the cave. The area is well lit, and raised above it and set further back into the cave is a sort of balcony area with more people on it and what appears to be a live band up there. The band is playing as you arrive, but at some signal, they seem to stop, and everybody in the club turns their attention towards the waterfall. There's a brief moment where you think, oh crap, they're all looking at us, but actually they're not. They're looking at the waterfall. And you sense a slight change in the way the place is lit. And as that happens, you see Kat jumping up and down and pointing at the waterfall with excitement.
Well, let's turn around with some excitement and interest to see what this could be.
Agnar starts holding all the wet fur back whilst the rest of him is trying to get a good view.
Okay. Initially, it's not entirely clear what's happening. The first thing you see is that there seems to be a change of the tone of the water falling. It becomes just a little bit thinner sounding, a bit less of a roar. And then slowly, it seems to change the look of it at the base, where it hits the actual surface of the lake, where that lake is massively broken up. It becomes just slightly less so, as if it's getting calmer, despite the fact the water is still plunging into it. And before too long, it takes a few minutes, you start to see more and more colours projected by lights falling on the inside of the waterfall. And you get the very strong feeling they were there, but because it was just water falling, you didn't really see much of it. But now it's as if the water's turning a little bit more reflective somehow, and the colours are becoming bolder and bolder and bolder. And then suddenly and very quickly, the entire waterfall changes its whole character, as from top to bottom, in the space of a matter of seconds, it turns to a solid sheet of ice. And as it falls down, the last few droplets falling off it, and the scatter of it, the waterfall hitting the surface, is frozen solid. But not the water itself around the waterfall, just the plunging waterfall. There's ice bobbing around it, little miniature icebergs and things like that bobbing around in the lake, but the waterfall itself seems to be frozen. And frozen, more sort of frosty white in colour, you can now see the rather beautiful shifting rainbow patterns of light that are projected on the inside and reflect, of course, now to illuminate the entire interior of the club. They're not like rapidly moving, but they are slowly changing. There's sort of lava lamp kind of sense to it. So it's constantly just shifting the illumination inside the club slightly. There's enormous cheer from the patrons who've all seen this before, but it's still a nice moment. And then a few of them immediately charge out and brave the freezing cold water to go and take their glasses and chip off a little bit of an extending bit of the waterfall to give themselves some ice in their drinks before heading back up the beach and enjoying the warm air that warms them up again and returning to their friends in the bar. Yeah. And that is the moment that Kat didn't want you to miss by being too late for the club.
You did well.
Wonderful.
Well done. Yeah, Carl turns to Kat, says, that's beautiful. Thank you for making sure we were there for that.
Well, you did say, where should you go?
And the next place I'm going to go is the bar for 6 of the most brightly coloured shots I can find. And Cara heads off to the bar in amongst the masses of people at that point to grab a tray full of colourful shots for when she returns.
Excellent. And on the subject of that, I think it's time we did the same, so we should take our break about that.
Sounds perfect. Cool. Fantastic. We're off for a 5-minute break, everyone. So go to the loo, do whatever you need to do, grab a drink. We toast when we return, so make sure you've got something in your glass for the most important part of the evening, and we will see you in 5.
From the ashes of empire, a new hope beyond man, the Trinity, Mirai, Thren, and Human now bound as sisters, the first interspecies alliance embarks on a journey to build a better future. Old ghosts and new threats loom. Cold darkness and cruel light threaten to engulf the fringes of the frontier at the flare of an engine. But rejoice, my friends, for only from the darkness may we see the stars.
Snide's Return is a tabletop role-playing game interviews and actual play podcast. We interview content creators, Twitch streamers, and fellow podcasters, and we put out our own actual play using a variety of different systems. So come and join us, come and have a listen. You can find us on Twitter at Return Snyder. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, or check out our website at www.snidesreturn.squarespace.com.
And welcome back. Conveniently, our characters have just arranged for a round of drinks, one of which is for Zoe. So it seems appropriate for Zoe to give the toast. So, for those who did not know him, we lost a valued shipmate. And it falls at this moment to one of us to raise a glass to the late, great Grey Hill Bast.
To Grey Hill Bast.
To Grey Hill Bast.
Once that's done, immediately, Kat starts sort of animatedly talking about, the stuff you're going to be doing on the ship, on the fishing boat. So I'm going to take you down there, but I'll stay with you for the journey because it sounds like fun. And the Zodani guy, who's that? I mean, you know him, don't you? Don't you? Don't you? You had his picture. Zoe, you must know him. He's Zodani.
Well, I can't say. It's a bit of a complicated situation. Some might say awkward. Does anybody have any objections?
No. We're in a sharing circle.
And if Zoe looks happy, Agnar will go on and explain. We've met him a couple of times before. He's a bit of an unsavoury character as far as we've come to judge him. We certainly don't know him as a fish expert. Let's put it that way.
Oh. Okay. So you don't think he is a fish expert?
Sarai sort of shouts over to, doesn't shout over, sort of leans over to Agnar, says, it was rocks, wasn't it, last time?
I think it was, it might have been rocks. We don't know him terribly well. We do know him by another name. I mean, perhaps that's a nickname that he goes by from time to time. Maybe it depends on the circle that he's with. You know how these slightly more upper class people get with their nicknames and their social groups.
Well, yes. One of the Commodore's friends, for no adequately explored reason, goes by Boppy.
Exactly.
Boppy.
And I think you'd agree Anton is equally as ridiculous nickname, and he winks over at Kara.
The warmth of the drink is just getting to Kara, so she has a bit of a snigger at that point. She's relaxed now, so it's that stage of the evening.
Okay. So Kat cheerfully says, right, I'm going to go upstairs and listen to some music and do some dancing. Feel free to join me or just enjoy the atmosphere down here. I think it's a lovely place to have a drink. When you want to leave, come and get me. The only issue is we'll have to go out through the front and walk around, you see, because, well, the route is sort of a little bit blocked.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
And she meanders off into the club, raising her hand every now and then to wave to someone she presumably recognises. And
Agnar will sort of, point around the circle and drinks, and he'll count up everyone that wants a drink and head to the bar and get the most ridiculous umbrella-laden, colourful cocktail he can find for each and every one of us.
Excellent. On being presented with such a thing, Zoe says, "I've got to try it," and walks out into the water and tries, scraping off a little bit of the waterfall into her glass,
Yeah.
which works extremely well because it's quite sort of aerated because of the way it was formed. It's not like a solid sheet of ice. There's a lot of air bubble in there. So you can sort of almost treat it like crispy snow. You just scrape off a lump of it and fall it into the glass.
Nice.
Wonderful.
Kara's legs are bopping. She needs to go up and dance, if nothing else. But before she does... Hi, this is Cara Lasker. I'm here at Cascade. Let's hear a whoop whoop, and holds her camera around to the group, hoping for some kind of whoop whoop.
Agnar's probably well into it at this point and happily cheers along for her.
Look, if you've not been here before, thoroughly recommend it. Check this out. Shows the eye, camera shows the eyes, giving the old peace signs and this and that up to the beach. Just about to go and listen to this band. Sort of shouts over to someone near the beach. Do you know what this band's called?
The person glances across with a big sort of smile, possibly a couple of drinks in, and says, "No idea at all," with great enthusiasm.
Cara runs up to them with a big smile, gives him a fist bump, and says, "Say hello to your literal tens of fans." And then off hands over the rest of her drink to that person, and says, "Right, my fellow friends, I'm off to dance. Let's go." And then sort of runs off with the camera held out at arm's length, as if to sort of take it all in as she vanishes off into the milieu.
Okay. Fair enough. Anyone else doing anything? Zoe will just find a quiet corner and set about drinking enthusiastically.
Agnar will probably follow actually, and join in with a bit of dancing.
Full Daddy Agnar.
As they leave, Stefan's probably a bit more cautious, certainly, than Agnar. Does it appear anyone's following them off to the dancing?
I would, in this environment, I would roll a streetwise check.
Oh, wonderful.
With intellect.
Intellect's not so wonderful, but I can deal with it.
I'm afraid it's going to be with Bane, however, because it's a really crowded, busy environment.
That's fair enough. It's quite... everyone's looking at everyone. People are wandering around aimlessly. That makes sense. Oh, that's a 5 plus 2 is 7.
Okay. As far as you can tell, nobody is paying undue attention. I mean, don't get me wrong, every now and then some slightly drunken bloke is casting a surreptitious glance at, one of the women's bottoms or something like that. But there's nothing nothing that stands out as being problematic.
Sure. And he is probably quite happy after that to grab a selection of drinks and join Zoe and sit in a corner somewhere and put a few away after the evening of being slightly more cautious.
Okay. One thing you do start to notice is that though the band is clearly playing up there and you can hear them, and the people up there enthusiastically, obviously waving their arms, dancing around, cheering, singing along perhaps, down here at the ground level, it's really quite a quiet, removed experience from that. It's as if there's a kind of sound baffling or something that you can't see that separates the two. So you can see the excitement and hear the beat, but it's actually fairly quiet down here near the waterfall.
You have created your idol bar. So there's Zoe's going to sort of look over at Stefan and Zoe, sort of give like a point to the other downstairs bar, I guess, and give like a 5 minute, 5 minutes. I'm back in 5 minutes, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's going to wander off to have a look around and see what it's like in there. Really, just be around people. Slap on a drink through a straw. Hear the little boof 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 from upstairs. See the chatter. Just be on her ears. Keep her ears open for things. Head to the bar. That sort of vibe. Just being part of that thing.
Essentially, the two bars on this level are one each side, and they are close to the waterfall. The room is sort of loosely trapezoidal in shape. It's at its narrowest where the waterfall is, and it widens as you head back into the town. And there you can see a main entrance leading out of the club, but also there are tables and chairs scattered around, and people are sitting there. They've clearly decided that those who want to sit close to the waterfall shouldn't be encouraged to hog it, so they don't put much furniture there.
Mm-hmm.
That's for people who want to go and stand in front of the waterfall. The furniture's all further back towards the entrance. As soon as you head back beyond the bars, you can indeed see the bottom of the floor above you overhead, and that means it's a slightly more close, informal experience. And again, as you head back towards the door, once there's an actual hard floor between you and the upstairs, it becomes noticeably quieter still.
Cool. So I was going to head over to the bar. Are there people at the bar? Is it quite quiet there?
It's busy. Everywhere is busy. Yeah.
Cool. So I was going to sort of squeeze into her place at the bar. Is she a couple of people back? Are we how are we talking?
The bars are long, so even though it's busy, there isn't what you'd call a queue or anything. There's room for everybody to find a place, pretty much, because once they've grabbed a drink or two, they're back over to the tables or back upstairs or wandering over to look at the waterfall. Yeah, there's a fair turnover at the bar.
Has she bumped between guys, girls, a guy and a girl? What's either side of her? What are we looking at as she sort of squeezes in?
Let's take a look. There's actually 2 women, one each side of her.
Cool. Do either one look slightly more friendly or not focused on getting a drink, or are they both eyes ahead?
They're both pretty much staring at, straight over the bar, waiting for their drink or their turn to order a drink.
Cool. Sarai will put her half-finished cocktail on the bar, sort of go, a bit too sweet for me, and then take on the classic 45-degree angle, arm slightly dangling over, waiting for her turn.
Mm-hmm.
Where we will leave her waiting for a beer for as long as it takes, and we can head off elsewhere. But she's gone to hang out at the bar, listen to chatter among people, and wait for a beer.
All right. So who do we go to next? Where's Stefan, for example?
Stefan's probably still sat down with Zoe.
Okay.
Probably just making casual conversation.
Okay. Nothing in particular he wants to ask. Just generally chatting.
Not at present. Something might come up, but yeah, just generally chatting.
Okay.
Work, interests, general stuff.
Fair enough. And Kara's gone upstairs.
She's trying to be full-on vlogger, going up to people dancing, making sure the band get their bit, selfie with the band in, around people. Oh, it's a wonderful time, hugs and peace signs. Oh, that sort of annoying vlogger stuff, really, I guess. And then the phone goes away, and she drags Daddy Agnew. I'm sure is throwing his dad shapes or whatever.
He's got his best dad dancer.
She drags
being
him
slightly older.
She drags him more to the front to make sure he gets fully involved in the dancing. There's no half measures here.
Of course,
he's got to go for it. So she drags him in, tries to show him whatever latest artistic dances she's learned over the last few years.
And bear in mind, between them, they have 4 in carouse.
Exactly. We're unstoppable. We need to find some people. I thought we need some. I guess Kat is involved in the big group.
Yeah. If you want to sort of loiter near her, she's enthusiastically jumping around, waving to people she recognises, joining in with the band, accepting random drinks off strange guys who think she's cute. You know.
Is up here? Is there anything before she gets totally away with the fairies? Can Cara blast a glimpse of those guys approaching? Is there anything suspicious to be seen before I can no longer roll without about a -30? And everyone's my mate and so on.
Roll a streetwise with intellect and bane, please.
Oh no. Hang on, where's my warmest dice? There it is. Oh, that rolled a 1 again, for goodness sake. No, it's not going to happen. I rolled a 6, but I also rolled a 2 and a 1. So that's a 3, plus streetwise, which intellect, which is a +2, and a streetwise, which is 0, so it's a 5. And it was a 1 that was the cold dice, so that one's changing again.
So, no, I'm afraid you don't notice anything remotely suspicious. You might, if you were a good friend to Kat, you might mention to her that the guys approaching her really seem to have one-track minds. Mm-hmm. But other than that, nothing unusual seems to be happening.
Okay. Cool. Well, we'll just carry on dancing for a little bit, I guess. And Agnar wants to do something.
At one point, Agnar will just he'll just be like, he probably can't hear what he's saying and he doesn't want to shout too much, but he'll just indicate that he'll be back in a minute. And he wants to wander downstairs to Stefan and Zoe, and sort of casually join in their conversation. But he will type on his device, whatever messaging service we use, a message, but not send it. And he'll just say, we think we've been bugged. They possibly know you're going back. You plan to go back to the ship. And instead of sending it, he'll just turn it to show both of them as he continues to have a bit of conversation. He'll take lead on something at that point, I suppose, and just, I can't believe it's such an amazing place. The waterfall was tremendous when it changed. Have you had ice from it yet in your drinks? And show them the message.
Zoe reads the message and very smoothly says, "Yes, it's nice because of the way the air's in it. It sort of melts really fast and gets the cold into it really quickly. It's a clever idea, I think."
I mean, I can't believe how quickly it froze for fast running water that it was. And he'll quickly delete that and he'll just say, possibly have room with Cara or Soraya at hotel if you need, and show it to her.
Okay. She says, but I think it's my round. You know what? If I drink much more, I think I won't go back to the ship tonight.
Well, let me get these ones in. What are you both having?
She asks for a short.
And Stefan will say, "Can I just have a beer, please?" Something simpler than this would be wonderful.
I like that. I like that you were so caught up. It almost felt like you were waiting for Stefan to answer for a minute there. It was quite nice. And you, Stefan? Well, it's me. I'm having too much of a good time.
Yeah. I'm glad I didn't have to have a full-on conversation with myself. That might be weird. And Agnar will run off at that point to the bar and get some more drinks in.
Okay.
He'll buy for Soraya as well if she's still there, and he gets to that point.
Oh,
But it's
she'll be
selfish.
she'll be halfway down a bottle by that point, but she'll definitely, as he raise, she'll raise the bottle and sort of clink it against something like I'll have another.
Across the bar.
Okay. As soon as she's alone with Stefan, Zoe reaches into her sort of the pocket of her flight suit, combat suit, unit, and pulls out a relatively small device, and
It's a knife.
and flicks it on, and it produces a little electronic, lighting on it, and she nods to Stefan and said, "It's not us."
Whew. Okay. Well, that's good. I guess then we've narrowed it down to. Wait, Kat wasn't with us at that point, was she?
No.
So it'll be any of the other three. Okay. Well, at least we know we can talk freely. I think it's up to you. I mean, I guess you can certainly have my room with Soraya if Soraya doesn't mind. Or who was Cara sharing with? I can't even remember off the top of my head.
Rose.
With Rose, who is still on planet, isn't she? Or did they all go?
No, she went back up to the ship.
Or he was, yeah.
And following Zoe's instructions, the ship then undocked from the space station and has pulled alongside the naval base.
Yes. Okay. He'll say, I'm sure Cara wouldn't mind, sharing her space, seeing as she has a room to herself now. But we can discuss that with them. Maybe at some point in the evening, find out who's potentially been bugged.
Excellent stuff.
Not necessarily declare it. I think as long as they don't know that we know, we could use it to our advantage.
Mm.
So if we can indicate who it is without actually saying who it is, that might be quite useful.
Well, your trick with the communicator was quite good. If we can work out who it is, we can literally hold it in front of their face and say, "You're the one who's bugged."
That sounds like a good plan.
Okay. Well, the evening went on, and the music is playing, the drink is flowing, and nothing other than that seems to be happening. So is there anything else you guys want to do this evening, or do you want to make your way back to the hotel at some point, or something else?
How crowded is the dance floor?
Busy. Yeah.
Okay. By the time Agnar makes it back up there, and after he's had a few more drinks and he's listened to more than enough loud music for his liking, he'll turn on his sphere of solace. Continue to dance and act as though nothing's happening. Which is a 5-meter radius, so I don't know how much. I don't know if that encompasses any other people.
Yes, it will encompass many other people.
Probably does. But he's quite happy for the few minutes of silence he can get before he realises and has to turn it off, so everyone else can enjoy their evening.
There's an awful lot of people sort of glaring at him.
As he continues to throw dad shapes. But yeah, doesn't make a nuisance of himself with it. Just gets a bit of a respite for his old ears.
Yes. And he probably has quite acute hearing, one would think.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would imagine. I'd imagine so.
Okay. So, what more do we want from Soraya?
From Soraya,
We last left her fetching some
Fetching
drinks.
and she's had drinks down there. Let me just check what she do. She's probably not going to do too much. She's just happy to be relaxed. She's not. Her idea of pleasure is like sitting at a table, drinking beers, and to very, very fuzzy and just hanging with the music far away. So she will probably wander back over to the beach, with a couple of beers in each hand, I guess, while the rest are drinking their shorts and their cocktails and that, and just chill out and just be relaxed. Just her life has been very few moments of just totally being able to switch off, and she's just gonna just spend that hour or whatever just drinking and enjoying the company and enjoying the beautiful surroundings.
Okay, fair enough.
That's a nice image. Sat on the beach with a beer.
I think
it's a very nice image. Yeah. So the evening wends on, and you all have your fill at some point of the socializing and the dancing, and even Kat, who's young and energetic, starts to look a little bit sweaty and tired, and comes back to join you downstairs. And she, if you don't bring it up, will say, "Right, are we good to go? You've seen everything you needed to?"
So Ralph look around and she go, "Where's Cara? Has Cara not come down yet?" Cut up to Cara, who her plan now is using said carousing skills. It's very late in the evening. There's a lot of people that are drunk, or we can assume high or on something. She wants to hunt down someone because she wants contacts for places to get not necessarily narcotics, but anything, like Starlight drops, those kind of on the edge of things, buzz drugs, things for this, that, and the other. She's on the lookout for that. So she wants to hunt down, look around a couple of guys that may have checked her out a little bit. But she's a pretty enough woman, so it's possible. She's got enough about her. She's got quite a lot of spunk, as they would have said in the 60s. I don't know. Yeah, especially if you're Australian. So she's got oomph. So she's gonna sort of dance with a couple of the guys, but keeping my arm's length very much. Dance with a couple of the women, dance with a couple of the people, and then try and see if there's a couple of potential candidates who look a bit out of it that she might be able to approach for information.
Okay, yeah. All right. Can you roll a streetwise check for me, please?
I can.
With intellect.
I can.
Or social, if you prefer.
No, I prefer intellect, thank you. Okay, should be okay. 8 plus 2 is 10.
Okay. There are a couple of likely-looking male characters loitering at the sort of balcony corner of the dance floor, leaning on the balustrade, looking out and enjoying the glow on the ice wall that obviously they can see out on the far end of the bar. And they seem to be chatting away quietly together, even though because of the loud music here, they have to put their heads very, very closely together. And there's something about them, the way they're dressed, the way they are acting, that makes her think this could be a possible.
Cool. So she's going to sort of focus on that. She's going to drop a message to Stefan just before she goes over saying, on the lookout for contacts, can you come up and just give me eyes on?
Okay.
Hang back just in case I need it. He feels like the man to get, the man for the job for that, really.
Yeah, because of his enormous muscles.
Let's get the picture of Stefan up. Hang on, yeah, look at those. And his tight t-shirt. He'll draw
Between
people away.
him and Agnar, he is much stronger. It must be said, relatively speaking.
Exactly.
He'll reply just okay, full stop, and head upstairs to try and. I suppose he won't hang out right by the stairs, but he'll make his way in a little bit and just try and get eyes on Kara and stay well back.
All right.
Get a good sleep.
So you want to approach these guys?
Yes,
and
please.
You want to... Okay, so let's do a carouse check with social or, I guess, intellect as an alternative.
Well, yeah. Okay, cool. Yep, I'll roll that. That's a +4. I feel confident. Should be okay. 5 + 4 is a 9.
Yeah. Okay. She makes contact, and they seem, quite relaxed and happy to see her. And they cast a little glance up and down, and a little smile appears at the corner of their lips.
Yeah. Just right. It's my first time in town. I've been here with some friends. We've sort of split up a little bit. I've got some around, and we've had a good night dancing and drinking. I'm looking for something slightly different. I've got I guess my tastes are, and she sort of half winks at him and says, "I'm not talking about filthy sex or anything, so you can take that out of your mind. I'm talking business." Sort of half jokingly, that sort of nice try. But I am looking for something a bit more exotic than beer and whiskey.
Okay. Well, here's a pretty straight place. Wouldn't think you'd find much around here. In fact, I wouldn't think you'd find much around the lake at all. But you probably can't tell. We're on shore leave from the Navy base. And the Navy base has a few installations down on the surface.
Okay.
So I would, if I were you, head out towards the barracks there. The guys, they exchange a few things. They talk about a few things,
Oh, that's very helpful of you. Do you want this very much no-name mention, or is it worth mentioning a name?
I don't think you're going to need a name. Just walk up to the Imperial facilities, the arse end of Kuala, the ugly end, north end. Just wander in. It's not like a military base. It's just accommodation, temporary officers' quarters, and things like that. Just walk around. You'll find people who can offer you everything from tattoos and homemade hooch to weapons and anything. It's a lovely, free sort of world where nobody gets any sleep.
Oh, sounds beautiful. Do they look like they're not planning to get any sleep anytime soon?
They look like they're enthusiastically on the no sleep plot, yes.
Kara says, well, there is one way I can thank you, I guess. And she sort of heads over to says, wait there a second, heads over to the bar and gets a tray of like a dozen shots and shooters and things like that. I'll take whatever 30. I'll take 30 credits or whatever off my money for it, and sort of carries this laden tray over with brightly coloured electric green, those electric green shots and the most ridiculously coloured things, and says, "Cheers, guys. Enjoy the rest of your night," and leaves him the tray.
Okay.
And then sort of walks past Stefan, sort of pats him on the shoulder, and heads downwards.
All right. He'll just watch the two guys for a sec and see if they start drinking, and then turn and follow.
Okay. Are you going to now gather everyone and head out, or do you have something else you want to do in the club?
Well, considering we're selling the Baltic Star and living on Giikur, we'll be back here soon enough, won't we? For our weekly night out. The boys from the club.
Earth Park at 9 o'clock.
Earth Park at 9 o'clock.
Club at 8 p.m.
Every day.
Every day for a year. We've got yearly passes.
Hung over on the beach till midday. Then a bit of Earth barbecue with suspicious meats. Catch some old-fashioned Shakespeare. Living the dream.
They might even be able to do you a full English at that barbecue, and that's definitely the cure for a hangover.
It certainly sounds like a good retirement plan.
Okay. So the route out is now effectively through the front door. You head out to find that even though it is now, very late, well after midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, perhaps local time, there is still an enthusiastic queue of people outside waiting to get in. And as the gaggle of you leave and turn your back on the main sort of town centre of Lata and turn left out towards the little mountain peak that forms part of the extended surface up the ridgeline, you pass in the queue Horatio Perry, the sort of ship's captain and tour guide from earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Who is queuing up outside, waiting for his opportunity to get in. And Kat sees him, smiles, wanders over and sort of says hi, and then seemingly takes pity on him and grabs him by the wrist, tows him back to the right to the front of the queue, and then says something to the doorman, who immediately waves him in, and then she rejoins you.
Oh, that feels like a bit of completion. That's brought me a little bit of joy. It must be said.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's having a good night tonight.
I feel better for not tipping him.
Yeah, you've got to be careful
Say Agnar does.
skipping when you're talking about a boat trip. But she then hurries up and joins you, and then leads you round the corner of the entrance. And here, where that sort of rough peak was left, where the sort of staggered bit that they cut off for most of the rest of the peak, there is an actual passageway drilled through one of these peaks, like a little tunnel, the kind of thing that Wile E. Coyote paints on a wall, that kind of. And she leads you through it, and it goes down a very gentle slope, and then emerges at the northern end of that pier, that little quay that you were moored to, the sort of semicircular quay. If you'd, instead of jumping in, just sort of turned left and walked along it, you'd have come up through that tunnel out onto the surface of the peak. And this time, barely any of you gets remotely wet. The slightest lap of water across the surface, but it's a millimetre or two deep. I mean, in pretty much all of your cases, you're wearing fairly substantial boots. So, in essence, as you make your way back to the boat, it is only the soles of your boots that get damp.
Cara slaps back down, head on the edge of the air raft. The alcohol's starting to catch up. Turns over, looks over to Agnar and says, "We're definitely going to get you a tattoo this week."
Okay. Kat yells out, "Strap in, everyone!" Wow. And
Agnar's too busy looking over his furry body as to where he could possibly get a tattoo
Have to shave
without
big
having
patches.
a massive shaved patch.
Okay. Cat lifts the air raft off, turns it and brings it just a little bit forward over the quay, and then raises its nose so that it's just resting very gently against the outside of the frozen waterfall. And with a little twitch of the controls, she draws on its surface a sort of diagonal stripe just carved with the nose of the air raft through this soft sort of frozen snow waterfall to slightly change the look of it to those inside, where the ice will be just a little bit thinner and a little bit less reflective, and maybe change the look for the people remaining in the club.
Carve a penis.
That would be a challenge.
Not with that. Oh, hello. Oh, hooray!
Probably a good thing too after the amount we've
Yeah. But she got to do that with a degree of elegance. And yes, she has cheerfully left her little mark on the club for the evening. It's lovely to be able to do graffiti, knowing full well that as soon as the waterfall starts running again, it'll just evaporate instantly. So, yeah, she flies back and cheerfully calls out, "Coronet."
Agnar, yeah. Drop us a 5-minute walk away. Fresh air will do us good.
Yep, can do. She gives a quick glance down at the sort of the nearest side and thinks it's a bit congested there, and flies you effectively past it to the south before dropping down and landing you pretty elegantly on the quayside, a little bit south of the Coronet. So you can take the coast route basically to walk back into that central courtyard grassed area of the hotel.
Nice. I feel as though we're somewhat slightly cheating if we don't have at least a little bit of a walk back from a drunken night out. Agnar will say to the group, and it'll give us a little bit of time to clear our heads should we need it.
Well, I'll come and get you first thing day after tomorrow anyway, but if you need me, contact me. Have a good night, guys. And she checks quickly that everyone has waved off, and then she sets off for her next leg home. And it's not quite as elegant to take off. It's much more of a perfunctory, straight up and then away.
Thank goodness for no double ones. As she nosedives into the lake.
Show me the way to
go.
on side.
No, it was a perfectly functional roll. It just wasn't an 11, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, good stuff. And I suppose we head back.
Cool.
To the hotel, unless anyone has anything else they care to do.
Nope. Happy with that. A bit of fresh air at this time of night. Lovely.
As you set off, Zoe pulls out her little box again and tries it. Looks at it for a second and shrugs.
Stefan probably can assume where Agnar got that information from, and turns to Kara and says, "Do you want to give it another shot, or have we learnt all we can? Do we think?"
Clara kind of gets what you're saying, but she's had a couple. She's had a few now, so she's been like, yeah, okay, let's I can do this. Come on, I can get it right. Flips into her pocket a couple of times, gets it out on the third attempt. Beat.
Turns it on the fourth.
Beat. At least it does the work for itself. At least I don't have to put in a 13-digit code or something. Beat boot Bob holds it out, and I'll roll whatever I need to roll.
Yes, it'll be a +2 roll for you, I think, because it's an electronics communications check.
Does it do it itself? I don't lose anything because I'm drunk. Does it do it?
No, because it's an automated system. Essentially, it's push the button. Might take her 2 or 3 goes to push the button.
Yeah. Oh no, this button's a lot smaller than I remember it. These new models. But somehow she hits a 9, the best scan of the week.
Okay.
I should be drunk more often. I've hit the sweet spot. It's what's caressing the button.
You definitely pick up the fact that you are bugged. But if you want to find out who, you'll probably have to scan everyone individually.
Cara will go quiet, and she'll sort of show it up, and she'll be as if like with her fingers like. She'll just say one of us, and that's all she'll say. She won't she'll say one of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I'm waiting to see if anyone else has an idea of how to go about it. If anyone knows any more than her, really. One of us.
Trying to think how to sort of communicate it. All right.
This is that's that PC versus player thing, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. Zoe will nod and smile and sort of do almost a pirouette in front of her, holding her arms up as if to imply, scan me here.
Cool. I'll do it again. Do I need to roll again?
Yes.
Yeah. 10.
Okay.
It was a good roll. So that's my fingers. Sorry.
A 10 is no bug. Zoe is not bugged. You've narrowed the focus down to her, to in front of it. So it's now just checking the person out, and there is no bug on Zoe.
Cool. She'll sort of look at Stefan and say, "You're always suspicious."
Stefan will do the classic Stefan pose that he is in fact doing in his photo when it next comes around, and raise an eyebrow, throw his arms out, and sort of stand in front of her.
Oh, I'm rolling well now. I've been bad all evening. Now I'm on a hot spot. 9.
Oh,
9. Okay. Stefan is not bugged.
Half jokingly, she'll point it directly at her forehead and press the button.
Okay.
As if she's in Deer Hunter or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like very dramatically so.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm +2 each time as well, aren't I? So I'm totally nailing this. Right. That's an 8. 8 + 2 is 10.
Okay. Yes, Cat is bugged. Oh, sorry, Cara is bugged.
Right. I'd like to point out at this point, as a PC versus player, when we, about half an hour ago, I figured out that it was her, and I think I figured out when it happened as well, and you played it really, really well as a GM, if that's the case, by the way, bravo. And it all came to thingy. It was when he slapped her on the shoulder, wasn't it? 2 episodes ago.
All that time,
and I've only just kudos to that. I'll tell you what, I'm raising an out of character glass to that. I think it's deserved.
Well, thank you. I wouldn't want you to think that things happen completely by accident. There is some planning that goes into it.
Once I've got it on, is it strong enough that I can like blip, 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 blip to find it, or is it just that she knows that when she gets back, she's going to have to like search through everything?
Based on the description, I don't think there's any reason you couldn't find out exactly where it is.
She rolled high enough, didn't she, as well? So.
Yeah. It is, in fact, on the outside of her left shoulder.
Yeah.
It's a very, very small device, and it is stuck sort of on the outside of her shoulder.
Sorry, just quickly, out of game question. Do we know from the initial scan that it was only one bug that was being picked up?
You've only picked up one bug.
Okay. Yes, that's how I should have phrased the question.
Oh, Stefan's there's his pose. Oh, you missed it. There was Stefan's pose.
Okay, cool. That's all I wanted to know.
Soraya will lean over with her device with a message on, as has been done with other people, saying, "Do we?" I think she's assumed that it's Fess. She's, because she hates. It might not be, in far as she's point of view, but she hates the guy and she don't trust him. Purely because her message will be like, do we give away that we know? Do we give it away that we know? Delete, 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 delete.
Yeah.
Do we? The next one is like, do we pretend we haven't seen it? Question mark.
And people respond?
Stefan will type out a message, and he'll say, we could not give away that we know, but put it on somebody else. Tim? Question mark, question mark.
So Ryan breaks into a massive broad grin. Responds back, Tim, capital letters, question mark, question mark, question mark, emoji, smile, 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 eggplant. Thumbs up, smile.
Okay. Yeah. Zoe holds up her communicator, which says, do we know who the bugger is?
That's worth a boon.
Is there any way to find that out from the equipment that certainly not Stefan or Ragnar, but Kara or Soraya have about themselves that we know of?
Not that I can think of. No. No, I mean, if there, the way to learn that kind of thing, and it would certainly not be definitive, but the way to learn that kind of thing would be to take the device to someone who could take it to pieces under a microscope, kind of thing. You might learn something, but it wouldn't necessarily give you the identity, but
Sure.
It might tell you where they bought it, or
Yeah,
there might be something you could track down.
A broad spectrum of where the technology came from type
Yeah,
information. Okay.
You might learn whether or not it was, Imperial Navy issue or Scout Service issue, or used by a particular group of terrorists or hoodlums or the Varga or whatever. Yeah.
A broad grin goes over to Kara's face as she hurriedly types in and holds it up, saying, "We could take it to the Navy base. ... And Agnar can get a tattoo."
Okay. Yes. Zoe responds, good plan. So QT tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Stefan will type out, and tomorrow morning, or at least until we can dispose of it.
Okay.
Uh,
And with that, Zoe nods, a bit more confidence in her smile, perhaps, and she pulls out her Gauss pistol and sort of makes to carefully check it, take the safety catch off, and then put it back in her holster. As in, yeah, I'm ready.
Cara, a bit overly noisily. Now they're back to talking. It's like, right, I'm knackered. I need to get up. I need to get upstairs. Have a little sleepy. We've got an exciting day of touring tomorrow.
Sounds good. Sounds very good. And you meander your way back to the hotel. As you know, there's a route to head pretty much straight up to the rooms by turning out over the water, walking along the first part of that pier, and then heading straight up in the lift on the outside, on the quay side of the hotel. So you don't have to go through the lobby if you don't want to.
Soraya turns and heads towards the lobby. As
Okay.
everyone else goes that way. Dragging Stefan with her, of course.
Yeah, Stefan would follow if not. That's fair.
Remind me again, who was Rose bunking with?
Cara, so that would be the empty space.
Okay, so without making any particular sort of conscious decision, Zoe just sticks with Cara.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Can Agno at some point hold up a message and just say, if you two are bunking together, don't forget the bug.
Okay. Zoe spends a little bit of time tapping stuff in, and then shows him something that says, "I think we're planning to give him a show."
Agnar sort of chuckles and looks a bit uncomfortable.
Cara sends a big message saying, "You're not invited." Smile, wink. Okay. And then out loud she says, "Go to bed, Daddy Agnar."
Fair enough. So, Soraya and Stefan head towards the lobby.
Do we recognise who's behind the desk?
I mean, you actually don't, but for our purposes, it's Tim.
Yeah. Soraya goes up. Tim! Nice to see you. Man, it's been ages. How are you?
Good evening.
His pleasant day just turned.
Soraya will turn to Stefan.
He does have that look on his face of, it was going so well.
I got to 1 a.m. without too many drunken idiots. Soraya turns to Stefan. Stefan, this is who I was telling you about. It's Tim.
Oh, Tim, I've heard so much about you. And he offers out his hand.
The chap sort of politely extends it. He says, "Actually, it isn't Tim. Perhaps you have me confused with someone else."
Soraya sort of taps her nose conspiratorially. Says, "Don't worry, your secret's safe with us. Tim. You're among friends. You don't need to use your work name anymore."
Excellent. Can I help you with something?
So I was speaking to my colleague here that you can get anything we could ever want.
Within reason.
Here's our room number. She sort of says the room number, shows the credentials, and says, "Is there any chance we could be woken up tomorrow morning at breakfast with a huge platter of the best Giikur breakfast you could ever imagine? We're talking fruits. We're talking alcoholic, fizzy, fruity drinks. We're talking, a bit of cheekiness. Maybe someone to serenade us when everything opens up. It's a very special holiday for us. Is that something you could do for us?
Well, of course.
And could you do it for these other 2 rooms as well? And gives the other 2 rooms details.
Naturally.
And then for Agnar's room number, she says, and this one especially, it's his 70th birthday. And it's a very, very special trick. Could you potentially send? I know it's asking a lot, and she sort of starts playing with the sort of her device for sort of typing a sort of money, the old money thing, like, how much shall I offer?
Mm-hmm.
You don't happen to have a beautiful young man or lady, particularly the most attractive member of staff around at that time of day, who could be the one that takes the food up to our esteemed friend that morning and maybe wishes him a very happy 70, maybe with a song or pull open the curtain, some kind of joyful start to the day.
Not a member of staff, but we aim to please. I'm sure I can arrange something.
Kara types in 400 credits and sort of shows it to him and says, would that be enough for 3 beautiful breakfasts and a lot of aiming to please for our 70-year-old friend?
He thinks about it for a second and and then he says, yes, I think that would probably do.
Oh, splendid. Thank you, Tim. You've always been our favourite. Isn't that right, Stefan? I always said he was our favourite.
You always said he was our favourite. That is right. Every time you've said somebody is our favourite, it's always been Tim.
It's always Tim. he never lets us down.
Disturbingly, that is literally true.
Very carefully chosen words.
He never lies.
Well, not with his deception. No.
No. And Steph, I mean, does that go to his personal device, or does that go to like the room charges type hotel costs?
Effectively the little device that he will sort of hold out to receive your munificence will be his own device. He'll treat it as a tip, and he will arrange everything on your behalf.
So if he needs to pay off a bit, it will come out of whatever. Yeah.
Okay, and Stefan will say, "Oh, and this is for you, Tim, for being so helpful," and he'll tip him 100 credits.
Oh.
Okay, lovely.
Oh.
Yes, it's fair to say Tim has that smile on his face that seems to say, you can call me Tim all you like. You people are clearly lunatic. That's fine.
You're too kind. You're too kind to Tim, Stefan.
Well, he's making our friends' wishes come true on his 70th birthday. I think we can afford to be generous.
Is there any chance you could write a handwritten card as part of that, please, Tim? As the touch of the Crescent Hotel.
Oh, I think I can do a little better than that.
Well, we look forward to hearing from our elderly friend tomorrow when we meet up with him. Thank you so much. You've made his dream come true.
Just out of game, I've been thinking about it. It must be pretty much near impossible to tell the difference between a 42-year-old Varga and a 17-year-old Varga, apart from, the grey hairs. There's no wrinkles or sagging skin or weird birthmarks that start to...
You're right, but isn't it... I mean, even when the hair starts to go grey, wouldn't they just say, "Oh, he's brindled," kind of thing?
Yeah,
it would just be the coloration of his
exactly.
hair.
And people grey at very different ages.
Very.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I suspect the process of going grey is rather more spectacular on a Varga.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Wow. And Sarai heads off to the stairs and the lift, sort of chuckling to herself as she goes.
Stefan has a little spring in his step.
Well,
Yes. Excellent. Yes. Okay. So you head up and go and visit your own rooms. And I think as you settle in for the night, that's where we should call it for today. So you can find out what Tim has planned next time.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad
I'm
it's
very
next
much
week, to
looking
be
forward
honest.
to
It's a reason for me to tune in next week.
it.
Thank you everyone that's watched through to the end or bits and parts of it. Really appreciate it. We do. I hope you can tell that we do it for our own fun anyway, and we enjoy it thoroughly. And we would do it if there's no cameras around, if we're stuck in rooms together, rolling actual dice around actual people and smelling our actual scents. But we're pleased to share it with you, and thank you so much. And join us next Thursday for a chat about something in the Traveller world. And join us next Friday at 10 for the ongoing story when 70-year-old Agnar wakes up to a birthday surprise. And we go on a tour of the city, I believe. What a magical time. And you can never trust anyone. That's not just for the story, that's just generally.
Advice for life.
That's just Springer's
Not
final
good
thought.
advice for life, but it's advice.
It's advice nonetheless.
More accurately, it's definitely true you can never trust Soraya.
That's it.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right, cheers everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.